Okay, hi everybody. Welcome to the Advanced Water Heating Initiative Residential Working Group call. Joe Wickes here with you, November 19th, 2024. Great to have you with us. Got a great session planned for today. As usual, we read our antitrust compliance statement. The Advanced Water Heating Initiative is a member-supported collaborative of professionals from across the U.S. This diverse membership includes numerous competitors, and care must be taken to scrupulously abide by federal and state antitrust laws. Members should remember that antitrust compliance is important at all times. At this and other AWHI meetings, participants should not discuss competitive pricing, profitability, allocating markets or customers, or promotion of a particular product or accessory. Okay, so here's our agenda for today. We'll do our welcome and introductions as usual. We have two sessions, if you will, two spots in our program today. The first one we'll chat with Geoff Wickes from NEEA and Francois Lebrasseur from A.O. Smith. These are two heat pump water heater trailblazers who are planning on a retirement soon. Lucky them. And they're going to share some of their knowledge on where the industry's come from over the last 10 years and what work remains to be done. So really excited to have them. And then we're going to hear from Josh Butzbaugh from PNNL, who's going to give an update on 120 volt heat pump water heaters, both in the Southeast and potentially a new project starting in the Northeast. So excited about that. Great. So as we usually do, we welcome new folks to the Advanced Water Heating Residential Working Group. So if folks are new to the group, we invite you to come on camera or just unmute your mic and just say who you are and your organization. For those returning members, feel free to put that in the chat. Yeah, please turn it over to folks who are new to the meeting.
I can start. My name's Nabila, and I'm at Loom Advising, and I'm here kind of on behalf of ComEd. I am a chemical engineer by training, and I'm brand new to working on this. I'm kind of taking over for Moss, if you guys are familiar with her.
Thanks, Nabila. Welcome. Great to have you on, and yeah, really appreciate it. ComEd is a great supporter of the Advanced Water Heating Initiative, so great to have you on.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Great. Other folks new to the call?
Hi, my name's Beth Cornelson, and I am new to the call. I'm with Golden State Rebates for heat pump water heaters and work for Clear Result, the company.
Oh, fantastic. Beth, what's the latest rebate for heat pump water heaters under the Golden State program?
Up to $900 on 65 and 80 gallon.
Oh, fantastic.
We want that A.O. Smith 120 to start qualifying, but still not quite there yet.
Okay. Excited to see that happen. Last question for you. Is there a publicly available data for the amount of rebates that Golden State has processed?
Not public.
Okay.
No.
Okay. Thanks. Always interested in tracking from the initiative. Great. Appreciate it. Welcome to the residential working group.
Thank you.
Other folks that are new today.
Hey, I'm new here. My name is Louis. We have a plumbing and heating company here at North Jersey. We do heat pump hot water heaters, so I just want to know more information and see what's out there. Keep up with the technology and all that. We install a decent amount of them, but the more we know, the better it is, you know.
Louis, welcome. We're always excited to connect with installers. Just curious as a follow-up question, then we'd love to connect with you offline. But is it a good part of your business, or you just get into the heat pump water heaters? Where are y'all at?
Well, it seems like not a lot of people are informed with the hot water with the heat pumps. So we started to do different options for customers that just educating them, you know, like if they have a standard 50 gallon, what are their advantage? And like, you know, sometimes if you do the reams, some of them qualify for like up to $2,000 in rebates, you know, which is pretty good. And the people that are interested in it, they are actually contacting us directly because not a lot of people are like knowledgeable of them. So the people that are like looking for the hot water heaters, like the consumers, they are doing their own research and they will know like what hot water heaters they want before, you know. So it's not so much that you gotta like sell it to them. They already know what they want and what's out there, which is great.
Yeah, yeah, we're seeing that with some initial consumers, interested in heat pump water heaters. That's good. That's good. Good for us advocates. Well, that's awesome, Liz. Thanks for being on. I'll connect with you offline. We have an installer focused group at AWHI. I would love to have you. It's just a small group of installers. I think Steve Broughton's here today. He's another installer, and yeah, so we just get together and chat about everybody's experience. So
Sounds good.
Yeah, great, cool. Maybe time for one last person, then we can do the rest in the chat. Okay. If we missed you, please put your name and organization in the chat. And great, and thanks for being on today. As always, let's get through our announcements and then dive into our program. We of course got to give a little update from the National Heat Pump Water Heater Day. We haven't talked since that big day. Hopefully, many of you joined us for the day. We've got everything recorded. If you missed it. Just a quick evolution. This was our third year in doing Heat Pump Water Heater Day. First, we were talking about hugging your heat pump water heater. Then we talked about your superheroes. And then this last year, the theme was transforming the market. So thanks to all of you for posting, for using this market transformers theme. We felt it was quite successful. Hopefully you saw the trading cards based on the different legs of market transformation, the policy, the product, programs, promotions, and payments that we hopefully had a good little fun with this technology in October. We did our promotional toolkits, a lot of use. Everything went pretty well. Loved the I can't get rid of my background, still have it up. I don't know if I'm ever going to take it down. Just wanted to celebrate our Excellence in Water Heating Awards winners again. We had Albert Brooks for the Commercial Heat Pump Water Heater Award. We had a tie for the Residential Heat Pump Water Heater Market Transformer, the Tech Program, and Cooper Marcus from Quick Carbon. Of course, our star Heat Pump Water Heater installers on the call, Steve Broughton from Great Northwest. But Lewis, it's a good thing you can enter the running next year's. So glad to have you connected. Clayton Homes won our new construction excellence. Our equity program was the Energy Coalition, and then of course Geoff Wickes won the Lifetime Achievement Award. So congrats to all those winners, and it was really fun to celebrate with folks. And of course, all of our sessions are online on our YouTube page. I will get a link in the chat for those. So if you missed any, I just got to say, I know I was heavily involved in making up this content, but it was killer content. We had amazing speakers, and of course had the Secretary of Energy with the keynote. So we saw some great numbers, had close to 900 registrants, close to 600 participants, good growth all around, and our website views just really spiked. So just really hopefully moving the needle with our impressions and participation, and getting the goal is to really shine a spotlight on the technology. And just thanks to all the organizations that posted. There were over 150 organizations posting some incredible artwork there. We just did a little collage. So thank you all for posting and being part of this, and really amplifying the message of efficient water heating. So the last couple announcements, if we are doing a little crowdsourced heat pump water heater installation cost, and we've got we've done an article that a blog post you may have seen. If you could you can click on this link, it's live, 30-second form, just interested in what you paid to have your heat pump water heater installed. We're just curious at how it varies across the nation, and we'll want to track this over time. So I'll leave that up for just a couple more seconds, but please let us know what your heat pump water heater installation cost. And then final plug on my end, the upcoming webinars, we are doing a cold climate heat pump, air source heat pump roundtable with the CEDAR program on December 4th. So coming up right after Thanksgiving, there's a live registration link for you there. Oh, no, one more announcement. Sorry, thought it was at the end. Just a quick plug. We, thanks to Slipstream and John Cullinar at Slipstream, we've launched an AWHI hydronic working group. This is the central topic is the focus on air to water heat pumps for hydronic heating. That's the primary focus, but there's going to be also discussions on hydronic cooling, combi systems, and thermal storage. Excited, got some really great heavy hitters on this working group. It's small and intimate, so kind of invite only, but if you're really interested, I'll put my email in the chat and reach out to me for this group. I just wanted to announce it to the larger residential group. Okay, oh, sorry, I skipped you, Paul. Over to you for Energy Star updates, and then we'll dive into our program.
No problem, Joe. And continuing on the theme of webinars, Energy Star just completed a two-part series to promote their newly released market acceleration guide. You've heard me talk about this before. It's an interactive, dynamic document out on the Energy Star website. So you can find all the information there. It's broken up into modular sections. So there's a little bit of something there for everyone. It started out addressing the audiences of utilities and their program implementers, but it's expanded into so much more, and it's dynamic. So we will continue to update it with information. But we had in each webinar somewhere between 100 and 200 attendees join us. So not quite the 600 plus that Heat Pump Water Heater Day received, but certainly still great audience numbers. And the first session was on program design and delivery. So we had Mass Save and Efficiency Main join us for that one. And then the second one was more about engaging the supply chain, enhancing relationships, building demand. So we had New York State, the utilities represented there, as well as General Pacific and the team there, Crystal, who was terrific, and we had some great interaction with the audience there. So recordings will be available very soon to those. So we'll get those posted, sent out, Joe, so everybody can listen on those. And we anticipate we'll be doing more of these because it just seems like the format is very engaging. It's easy. For the most part. There's always the devil in the details with logistics to get them set up, as we all know, but it really worked out well. There's a new installation guide for heat pump water heaters that's out there on the Energy Star website as well. We're working on converting it into Spanish language as well. So that's exciting. And then all of the collateral, really, we're looking at multi-language versions of that as we go forward. Speaking of webinars, we've got a workforce program certification webinar coming up on December 4th. So this is the promotion of the Energy Skilled designation that the DOE and PNNL has worked so hard to put together. And some of your training curriculums that many of you are involved in are now listed and qualify for that criteria. And so we're just trying to draw more people into this, be aware of. If you're a contractor, you're looking, where do I start my training journey? This is certainly one pathway that you can seek. So that webinar is upcoming. Some of you may have already received the invite for that, but there's the register button right there for it. Make it easy. And then lastly, I just want to mention that I was the benefactor of a great visit down to the GE Heat Pump Water Heater Innovation Lab in Louisville, Kentucky a few weeks ago. They invited me down. I got to meet the team. It's great to see a brand like GE, one of the legacy heat pump water heater manufacturers, coming back into the market. Many of you remember the GeoSpring back in the late 2000s that they introduced, and they're coming back in bigger and better. Very exciting to see the products that they have to offer. They're working very closely with the industry. You may have heard Dan Capelli speak in one of the roundtables during Heat Pump Water Heater Day, gave you a little snapshot of what the product offering is going to be and some of the marketing around it. But this team is really excited and energized. And I know AWHI and Energy Star is very happy and excited to support them as they launch their product early next year. So that's it, Joe.
Awesome. Well, stay on with me, Paul. Let's dive into our first part of today's program. We're going to talk to two heat pump water heater trailblazers who are going to share their thoughts and advice and feedback to the large industry represented here before they ride off into the sunset to some great adventures. So I'd like to welcome Geoff Wickes, if you're on, Geoff, to come on camera, and then Francois Lebrasseur, if you're on as well. Both of you, if you could come on camera, let us know if you're having any trouble. Geoff, I see you there. Great. And Geoff, thanks I know you're doing tours and busy today, so thanks for joining us so much. Is Francois on? yet?
I'm here.
Oh, great.
There he is.
Fantastic. Hey, Francois. So,
Hello.
great to have you both on. I think it's kind of a special moment here as you both have been so crucial to the industry and driving market transformation. So thanks for taking some time to talk with us. We've got Paul and I'll kind of moderate and have a couple of discussion questions, but folks feel free to put your questions in the chat as well for Francois and Geoff. And I think maybe we, as our slide here shows us, maybe you both could just start us off with, having seen the industry grow from first getting certified as an Energy Star product in 2009. Talk to us a little bit about where we started from. Take us back to the early days and how tenuous was the product at the beginning, and yeah, to give us maybe a little level set of where we are now from where we've come from. So, Geoff, maybe I'll have you start first.
Well, actually,
or whoever wants to go.
I'd love to have Francois start first, just because
Good.
he was in it before I was. So.
Thank you. All right. So my background is that I spent a lot of time at G Lighting, and I saw firsthand how the industry was not ready in lighting when Oprah went on camera and said, "Okay, you guys got to switch to a CFL, and then after LED." So that's all transition was really enlightening, no pun intended to me. And then I had the chance to join Back Appliances, and I tried to apply some of the things that were working really well on the lighting world, which was collaborating with utilities and helping reduce the upfront cost of a CFL or an LED. And that's what I did for 4 or 5 years for GE. At the time when you mentioned this, Joe, GE launched a innovative product with the GE GeoSpring, and other manufacturers followed. But that has been a key milestone for the growth of that segment, is having several good products, real good products. And then after 4 years, when GE decided to vacate the space, I was lucky to join A.O. Smith and continue the good work. So for all of you, here are the key milestones which have, if I think back, that really helped grow the segment from almost nothing to something really we can all be proud of. I would say the number one thing after the product was when NEEA came to me and said, "Okay, well, we're going to do an upstream manufacturer agreement with you guys, and we're going to rebate your heat pump water heaters by $200 across all of the Northwest." That was a real big kick in the tires. That was a fantastic program design. We didn't have much to report other than where we were shipping the product. There was a retail and wholesale program that helped reduce the upfront cost differential compared to a standard electric. And that really helped propel heat pump water heater in the Northwest. So that was a big one. The second one was the Northeast, when around the same time, 2013, we had Energize Connecticut, Efficiency Maine, and Efficiency Vermont deciding to switch from a mailing rebate to an instant rebate. That was another very big milestone, and they've been consistently doing it, and I kudos to them, because consistency of program, long-term program, statewide program, regional programs are the way to go. And the best example is obviously Maine, which is the only state that has managed to totally transform the market. And remember, all of you, remember that we have done it. We know how to do it. There is a recipe there. And if you think about what Maine did, Efficiency Maine, there are 3 legs to a stool. And you got to do the 3 legs, which is the instant rebate, the training, and that's where manufacturers come into play, the training of the contractors, the training of the store associates, and the third element, which is usually forgotten by the utilities, which is advertising, consumer advertising. Okay, and if there's so always remember that if you want to transform the market, those three legs are needed. The third, the other milestone that was really important was at the time, Lennar Homes was very forward thinking in Florida, and they actually decided to convert all of their new homes, especially around Lake Nona and Orlando, into a heat pump water heater. That was a fantastic decision, and that helped understand the importance of new construction in the market transformation. So after, I would say, that initial period of growth, what has totally changed the game is when California came in to basically say, well, heat pump water heater is not only an energy efficiency play, it is also a decarbonization and electrification play. Okay, so that's been a new era for us in the past 5 years, opening a lot of doors and creating a fourth market for heat pump water heaters. Traditionally, it was Northwest, Northeast, and Florida. Now we clearly have a fourth market with California. And where we are now is that we are maximizing the potential in California. We have new initiatives, of course, federal tax credit, IRA, Clayton Homes deciding to include heat pump water heaters in all of their 40,000 homes. Those are really big milestones that we're seeing right now. And where are we going? We're going to phase where we're going to prepare for code. Title 24.
Hold on 1 second, Francois. I do want to get to that where we're going. But that was huge, and there was so much there. I think I took a whole page of notes of there.
Stopping here.
I guess before we dive into some of those points, maybe Geoff, let's turn it over to you. What do you want to build on Francois?
Yeah, I mean, it's been a great ride, and it's been a great partnership, not only with GE, but also all the other manufacturers who have stepped up to bring product to market. And I think that's one of the elements that NEEA often looks at that people don't necessarily know is we try to affect lasting change through market actors. We're not trying to make a dollar on this. We look at a 20-year horizon, and we want all water heaters to be heat pump. Now, we can't get every single one, but we're getting closer. So I think there's a couple elements here that changed the landscape, and that was the NEEA 3, the DOE standard back in 2010 that went into effect in 2015, and now NEEA 4, which will go into effect in 2029. The 2010 one was anything over 55 gallons, and I'm really sorry to report this, but that also was one of the reasons that, as Francois talked about, one of the demise of it, because the marketplace said anything over 55 gallons needs to be a heat pump, and people started switching. They'd been oversized for years, and the market got innovative and figured out some workaround solutions. So that GE exited the market, and I remember the exact day when I got the call from Tom Zimmer. But then that line was picked up by Bradford White, and they have continued that product and improved on it. So there's been change. So regulation or standards, and then I would say the work that we've done with what first started out as the Northern Climate Specification is since morphed into the Advanced Water Heating Specification. We're up to 8.1 now, has helped push the envelope and create a bit of a roadmap for the manufacturers on where they need to go. So, and then coupled to that is a qualified products list that all the utilities can point to and have assurance that those savings will be there. And I'll just stop there, Joe.
Paul, go ahead if you've got a question ready.
Yeah, I do. Right. So the follow-up to that, of course, is, where do you see the roadmap going from here? What do you anticipate? But the way I would frame that question would be as if you could go back into knowing what you know now in your experiences, if you could go back and speak to yourself when you were first coming in to this marketplace, what sort of advice or direction would you give yourself knowing what you know now, going back in time?
Francois, do you want to go first? You want me to?
Yeah, go ahead.
So one of the things I would probably tell myself is don't try to boil the ocean, work with the easy wins. So we were trying to solve every installation for every heater. The reality is, basements, garages, big open laundries are easy conversions. Electric to electric are easy conversions. California has a huge lift in front of them. They're going to go from 93% gas to 100% electric over the next 20, 30 years. That's swapping out 13.3 million water heaters in a short amount of time and changing technologies. I just had the opportunity of working with one of my colleagues here. It was a fuel choice on her part, but we swapped out her natural gas, atmospherically vented water heater to a heat pump in her basement. Works great. And Francois, it's an A.O. Smith, thank you. And but the conversion process was not as straightforward. It's just taking out the wires and putting in, I had to cap the gas and I had to run a circuit and all those kind of things. So I would go back to your question,
Yeah.
Paul, is start out with the easy wins and, go after that. There's plenty of them. 50% of all the water heaters in America are electric. A large portion of them are in garages and basements, in places where they work very well.
Great advice.
What I would have done differently, that I have seen painfully how it's been difficult to get the distributors to play with midstream programs. They have been reluctant participants. They've always hated the data collection paperwork required by the programs. And I think in retrospect, I would have spent more time sitting down with the utilities, to convince them to do upstream programs, regional upstream programs. So more political work before doing the work in the weeds, I would say. It's probably what I would have wanted to do, and also convince the program implementers to digitize their tools for contractors. That's probably the two things I would have wanted. I would have wanted the luxury of 1 year to actually prepare before doing the fight.
Maybe a quick follow-up on that, Francois, and Geoff, for you as well. I mean, that's come up twice, these upstream rebates where you're incentivizing manufacturers, and it seems like NEEA did that early on, and it was really effective. Is that still, a tool that we should be making use of? We hear a lot about midstream rebates, but is upstream still something we're not doing enough of? And
yes, that's my point of view.
I think it can be very effective.
We would go faster with regional upstream programs.
It would be effective. Having said that, Joe, remember NEEA's objective is lasting change. So we cannot keep feeding this forever and ever. The market has to own it, and it has to be market accepted, both by the consumer, but also the installer, the distribution, and the manufacturer. So everybody has to be fully on board. So at a certain point, you can't just keep feeding people with crack money.
I agree. The good news is that the success of the main program shows that when you create the demand and when you have a huge amount of units which are sold in a region, you've got a lot of manufacturers and distributors and contractors fighting for that business, and as a result, prices are going down. All right. So if you look around, the state where you'll see the lowest prices anywhere on heat pump water heaters is Maine.
Yeah, that fully mature market that you were talking about. Well, I wanted to talk maybe in our last couple minutes here. We could chat about. I mean, we've talked a little bit about the future, but we've got some big tailwinds, right? We've got the NECA 4 that Geoff talked about, and that so many folks kind of worked to support, which will in 2029 phase out electric resistance water heaters over 35 gallons. and drive that market to heat pumps. And then we also have the air quality agencies that Francois was talking about, driving decarbonization in different areas. So we could see millions and millions of heat pump water heaters by the end of the decade. What is that, to go from 200,000 to millions and millions? What is your advice as you all are have done so much great work and are heading off to enjoy yourselves a little bit more outside of the water heating realm? What's your advice on how the market should prepare for this big transition?
Francois, do you want me to go?
It will. I'll say it will not go smoothly. It still be a struggle. There will be workarounds. There will be loopholes. It's not a slam dunk. Okay. So I think the learning from what happened to GE in the following NECA 3 is that we got to prepare, but we got to be cautious. All right. And we got to work on the continue to work on the low-hanging fruit, like Geoff said. I think the majority of heat pump water heaters sold, I believe, I don't have data, but still the majority are still in new construction. And I think that we got to continue focusing on new construction. That's a fantastic opportunity. Help drive code adoption in new construction is a very good bet for the growth. The replacement market will be more complicated. That's my take.
I'd agree with that. I would also add, stay tuned to some of the work that NEEA and other manufacturers are doing with the Innovation Prize, the Hot Water Solutions Innovation Prize, which is basically trying to fill that niche that Francois was talking about, 35 to 50 gallons, and it could be a split system and or a very efficient, quiet, other internal unitary solution. But I think we do need some product innovation. I also think we need to go back to basics, and our installers need as much support as possible and build that value proposition for them. Not that they need to make extra boat payments. No disrespect to Steve. Steve's doing an awesome job with this, but don't make it so that it's so lucrative as it is in the California market, where people are just, charging exorbitant rates. It needs to be done in a competitive way, and I think you're going to find some really fun innovations that are going to happen by the installers, and we need to support them, and the distribution needs to support them as well through having manufacturers come in and do training and teach them how to do that well. And I just noticed that Steve doesn't have a boat, so he's probably getting snowmobiles or something else. Just teasing, Steve.
Paul, we have like a minute left. You want to have another last quick question for the
real quick? With the changing administration at the federal level, what would be your words of encouragement to this audience as we look out over the next 4 years?
I would say continue to work closely with the utilities. Don't bank everything on federal incentives. And a good way to do it is work with the utility and try to see if you can update the TRMs to make them as current as possible. The industry has made tons of improvements on the efficiency level. The TRMs are lagging behind. You update your TRMs, you have better incentives. That helps.
So I think here again, it's marketplace activities. So continue to do that, what we're doing now, but more, and make it more profitable for the installers. I would also say one of the other benefits and activities that we should be exploring is flexible load management. Heat pump water heaters automatically bring your demand down, but you can use that water heater as a storage device, and that can be an additional value that utilities aren't even aware of how valuable that is. We're blessed here in the state of Oregon and Washington that CTA 2045 is required, and all heat pump water heaters in America are CTA 2045 enabled. So get those utilities using that resource, and you'll be able to shift that load around and provide an extra service that a consumer does not even notice, and utilities can benefit from and could potentially be subsidizing a bit more for storage and shifting.
Fantastic.
Terrific. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, guys. Huge thank you. Thank you all for all your hard work driving this market transformation over the last years and decades. And yeah, we wish you all the best. And please don't be strangers in this new, the third act.
Right.
So thank you guys so much, and look forward to continuing to rely on all your great wisdom and expertise in the future.
Thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thanks,
Thank you.
guys. Really appreciate it. All right, well, I'm going to turn it over to the other AWHI Residential Working Group co-lead, who's going to introduce Josh Butzbaugh for the remainder of our time today. Owen, are you on the call? Owen Howlett from California Energy Commission.
Here I am.
Great.
Thanks,
All right,
Joe.
well, I'll turn it over to you to introduce Josh and be our moderator. Thanks so much.
Thank you very much. Yep. So the last piece of the meeting today is Josh Butzbaugh is going to give us an update on some 120-volt water heater pilots and studies. For those who may not be aware, the whole issue of the 120-volt water heater or heat pump water heater has been, since the very beginning of the Advanced Water Heating Initiative, one of the main things that we were working on. It's actually one of the two reasons we all came together in the first place in 2018, I think it was, way back when, and it's been a huge success story. Obviously, just the fact that manufacturers responded so quickly, made 120-volt water heaters available, and that we at AWHI worked closely to develop the first pilot study, the first field study of 120-volt water heaters in the field, and now PNNL has really taken the baton, and they're working now on these two pilot studies that Josh is going to give us an update about today. Josh is a longtime friend of the show, great contributor to all the things we do, an expert on beer. If you need anyone to tell you the difference between a Goes and a Gerzer, then Josh is your beer expert. So please listen closely to what he has to say, and we'll take questions afterward.
Thank you, Owen, and hard act to follow with Geoff and Francois. Tip the hat to those two gentlemen. I remember going to some workshops in grocery stores in Cincinnati, grocery store the size of a mall, with Geoff and Francois and Greg Holliday as well, and I think Kevin Clark, doing trainings with installers. So those were in the days of getting into the grind and doing some fun work. So appreciate Geoff and Francois. All right. Let me see how I do this. All right, hope that works. Today I'm going to, it does, good. Today I'm going to discuss the field study of 120-volt heat pump water heaters in the Southeast, and now we are expanding into the Northeast. Want to tip the hat also to my teammates, Tyler Poulet, Tabitha Artuso, Sam Rosenberg, and Alex Reeves of the U.S. Department of Energy. I'll quickly go through some background and then the study setup, installation retrofits, which I think everyone will be interested in, analysis, initial conclusions, and then next steps for the study. All right, US has 65 million homes that currently use fossil fuel water heaters. They will need to convert to electric water heaters as we decarbonize. And that means switching to heat pump water heaters in particular. And for 240-volt heat pump water heaters, you have the issue of limited panel capacity and wiring. And that just means that you need two trades sometimes at the home to conduct the installation, and that increases cost and time. The California Retrofit Ready 120-volt heat pump water heater spec introduced this 120-volt heat pump water heater that goes on a 15-amp circuit, takes up about 7.5 amps of that 15-amp circuit, and shared among other end uses. The nice part about this product is that it offers quicker and cheaper installation when electrifying homes, going from gas or fossil fuel water heaters to heat pump water heaters. There are roughly 10 to 15 million single-family homes that are good candidates for this technology. This is given their expected electrical infrastructure. And when we were initially planning for this study, there were two manufacturers that were releasing 120-volt heat pump water heaters. The goals of this study are to understand 120 volt heat pump water heaters can meet hot water loads based on the home size, water heater location, temperature conditions, and then determine lessons learned for siting, sizing, and using those lessons learned to develop best practices, offer electrification policy insight, and then provide feedback back to the manufacturers and supply chain. For the first phase, New Orleans was selected as the location. New Orleans has a lot of different types of homes that offer interesting retrofit scenarios for 120 volt heat pump water heaters. A lot of unique ducting configurations and relocation scenarios. So it's a neat place to work if you're replacing gas water heaters with heat pump water heaters. On the right side, you see all the postcards we sent out, and got roughly 20 homes right now that are installed after sending out about 20,000 postcards initially. So this is like a blanket recruitment approach, so to speak. For the first 10 installs, manufacturer A was selected. They were the first manufacturer to release a 120 volt heat pump water heater to market. This product is recommended in climate zones 1, 2, and 3. So that was another reason that we selected New Orleans. And then the next 10 installs were manufacturer B's 120 volt heat pump water heater, which has 900 watts of backup electric resistance. And that product is recommended throughout the entire United States. We recruited a licensed plumber. We had to call, I don't know, maybe 40 or 50 plumbers in the New Orleans area. Found one that installed heat pump water heaters before. They had so much HVAC work, they didn't want to work with us. We eventually found a smaller installer that was, when I say smaller, it's a 2-person operation, and they were very interested to learn. We met with the manufacturer and made sure for both B and A to that we sized appropriately, and that manufacturer A also provided one of their staff people to conduct the first 2 installations with the trainer, or excuse me, the installer, help train the installer. Recruitment, we had a pre-installation questionnaire sent and a picture of the water heater location. This is was very helpful. I recommend it to installers to ask certain questions to try to understand the siting characteristics of the home and get a picture. Really helps with conducting the install. And we measured energy consumption, air temperature, inlet and outlet water temperatures. We've conducted some analysis with all of that data, which I'll get to in a little bit. These are the first 17 installs. I'm not going to go through all of them, but I will highlight a few of them. We have 2 dual ducted installations on site 9 dual ducts. Is it 9? Or excuse me, site 8 dual ducts from a shed that has an attached wall with the kitchen. Sends the exhaust in the kitchen and takes in the air, the warm air from the kitchen. And this home has done a really good job since we converted that to a dual ducted install. We have a dedicated circuit product in site 9. This goes into a condo and has performed really well, has great recovery. And we've had some louvered doors. I think site 1 was one of them. We had another one that's not on here. Yeah, a nice mix of products. So I'm going to go into some of the retrofit scenarios and considerations. Most participants had a 40,000 BTU per hour gas storage water heater with 40 gallons of storage at an 80% thermal efficiency. This is roughly 32,000 BTU per hour of input capacity. That's a lot of input capacity and allows quite a bit of margin for error. You'll see that water heater type installed everywhere from New Orleans all the way up into Minnesota. And it's nice for manufacturers because they produce one product that can go into a lot of homes. In contrast, the 120 volt heat pump water heaters have roughly 5,000 BTU per hour of input capacity. And that just means you need to compensate with larger tank sizes and mixing valves to be able to meet load. while we were doing this project, we also were developing an installation tool. And so we developed our own sizing methodology, and we used the questions from the survey and the pictures to do the sizing and conduct the retrofit plans, which was really helpful. So that 40-gallon gas storage water heater has a first hour rating that's comparable to a 65-gallon 120-volt heat pump water heater. And so you're going from a 60-inch tall, 20-inch diameter product to 72 inches tall and 26 inches in diameter. Plus, some of these heat pump water heaters have their air filter located on the top. So you need another 4 to 6 inches of clearance on the top. It just means that getting to the water heater location can be a challenge depending on where the water heater is located. We had one basement in New Orleans, and it had a like a spiral style wooden staircase, and we're not going to be able to get a big heat pump water heater down in that staircase if you didn't remove it. So those are the kinds of challenges that heat pump water heaters can present. And in these pictures, you'll see that there's a gas tankless water heater located outside the home. In the far left picture, this picture was taken with my colleague Tyler with his back against the wall of the neighboring home. So there's only a few feet in between these two homes. So we had to relocate to a closet. You can see that closet with the file cabinet in there. Pull those files out, put the heat pump water heater in, ducted it, and ran the condensate through the wall. There's a washer and dryer on the other side of that wall, and then vented it up above the wall on the other side. So those are the kinds of challenges that you have with space constraints where the existing water heater may be located. So if you have to relocate, it can add additional cost to the installation, but it is much less than upgrading a panel, for instance. Another challenge were the unconditioned locations. Even in climate zone 2 in New Orleans, we've had at least two multi-day periods in which temperatures remained below the compressor cutoff temperature of 37 degrees. That would have been December of 2022 and January of 2024. First time, in the middle picture, you can't really see it very well, but in the upper right corner, we put in a 200-watt heat lamp that kept that space warm enough to get through those 3 days and provide hot water. However, in January 2024, we tried the same tactic and it did not work. The home ended up using more hot water than the heat pump water heater could provide, and the homeowners were unhappy and wanted their gas water heater back. So you can kind of see the transition from the old gas water heater, the heat pump water heater, back to a gas water heater because the homeowners no longer wanted that heat pump water heater. And that just means that for outdoor water heater locations, like these enclosures, which are popular in the Sun Belt, detached sheds, detached garages, unconditioned attics, they have a higher risk of compressor cutout. And I should mention quickly that in attic installations, we've seen air temperatures go above 120, which has also caused compressor lockout. The good news from this study is all of our installations were completed without changes to the home's electrical infrastructure. Did not run new wiring or outlets, did not replace or add circuits. However, we needed to conduct electrical assessments, and those took about 30 to 60 minutes. We used the circuit tracing tool, find out which circuit the outlet belongs to, and then flip off that circuit and use a meter to figure out what other end uses share that circuit. You want to make sure that there's no real large loads that share that circuit, or else it's not a great candidate for a 120-volt heat pump water heater. Roughly a quarter of the homes we visited through site visits either did not have a receptacle nearby, even though their survey may have said they did, had a non-functional receptacle nearby, the homeowner hadn't checked. They had a functional receptacle, but the circuit didn't have enough amperage for the 120-volt heat pump water heater, or they had outdated wiring, like knob and tube, cloth wiring that we didn't feel comfortable putting a 120-volt heat pump water heater on. So that's a part of one of the considerations, is whether a home fits one of these four kind of profiles and whether or not a 120 volt can go into that water heater location or needs to be relocated. As we conducted this study and did installations, we found that we needed more and more special order materials. Those water heater enclosures are made to order. They're large. The heat pump water heater doesn't fit into that old enclosure that had the gas water heater in it. We found out that flex duct and duct terminations weren't readily available at hardware stores often. We had to order duct kits, which hopefully going forward will be solved with a lot of manufacturers adding flanges again onto the heat pump water heater, so you don't need the kit. But we also needed grills with plenty of net-free area, custom-sized louvered doors. Didn't realize this, that there are louvered doors that may not fit a number of door sizes. And then we even needed replacement thermistors in a couple of cases where thermistors failed. We had to swap them out. And that's part of the challenge of 120 volt heat pump water heaters, because you either don't have backup or don't have a lot of backup heating. If there is something that needs to be fixed or replaced, needs to happen quickly. So having replacement thermistors is helpful. Why does this matter? Well, if you're conducting emergency replacements, which roughly in that 48-hour period, 24-hour period, need to have these materials available in stock for installers. And just in general, something to keep in mind is these installations require roughly 48 hours of labor. And this does not include the site visits, electrical assessments, and any return trips that we had to take. Here's the hot water consumption analysis. It's not that exciting just because it fits. If you do research with hot water, it fits the profile that you kind of see normally. For two-person occupant homes, 39 gallons is very close to the low gallon per day draw profile in the DOE test procedure for the UEF test. 56 and 54 gallons are roughly in that medium use profile for the DOE test procedure. So this is to say hot water consumption was around what we would expect on average. And then we had our high consuming days, which are the top of those whiskers, where you have roughly the 97th or 99th percentile days, which may be our peak sizing days, where you have over 100 gallons per day, and even greater than these numbers here, where the heat pump water heater needs to keep up with that load throughout the day to prevent hot water runout. Kind of a similar story with energy use. It was within what we would expect for a heat pump water heater. Obviously much, much lower than what electric resistance water heater would do under these conditions. Average use was roughly 500 kilowatt hours for an average occupancy of 1.8 people. If you were to scale that to the US average home size of about 2.5 people, then you're looking at about 700 kilowatt hours a year. Strong correlations between occupancy, hot water use, energy use. You'll notice that the one-person homes, such as Site 4, they had a lot of days with less than 1 gallon of hot water consumption. With one-person homes, they just travel more. This particular person in Site 4, I think, was a professor who was on the road a lot doing research. And then you also, in New Orleans, what we found is the month of August of 2023, it was so hot out that no one really used hot water in the study for that month. So you even have hot air temperatures causing reduction of hot water usage. For hot water delivery, roughly we've seen out of 4,000 plus days, roughly 2% of days had hot water runouts. That's when the outlet temperature fell down to 95 degrees Fahrenheit. That's what we're calling a hot water runout. And we're calling them days because what we'll see is someone will run out of hot water and then they're going to check again in a half hour or an hour. And they're going to expect that tank to be heated up again already. But in a lot of cases, it's not. And so we don't want to count multiple hot water runouts when it's really just one initial runout and people going back and checking their hot water again. There were a select group of participants that had the most hot water runouts. We noticed that they had their 120-volt heat pump water heaters located in unconditioned spaces. And then of the ones located in conditioned spaces, one previously had that gas tankless water heater, which they're used to having that joy of endless hot water. So they may not be used to having to think about how many fixtures they have going at any given time. In our pre-installation survey, 6 of the 7 participants reported never running out of hot water previously, which does not really surprise me just because he has such high input capacity with gas water heating equipment. I've got this table down here, just kind of shows you what a hot water runout looks like for these homes. What you see a lot of times is the beginning of a hot water runout for heat pump water heater really starts 2 hours before the event. The heat pump water heater is already operating. And then the hour before the event, there's more hot water usage. And then there's an initial slug, maybe over about a 10-minute period in which, or 10 or 15 minutes, where they are consuming roughly 25 to 35 gallons of hot water. And then it leads to a runout. But it's not just a short time span where you see a runout. It's kind of the story that goes about 2 hours or 2.5 hours back in the making of a hot water runout.
Hey, Josh, just a quick time check. We've got about 3 minutes left. We can go a couple minutes over, but just want to make sure we have time for questions.
Yeah, just 2 more I've got some initial conclusions, just that we want to update our analysis with more data. So this is not, the end of it, but as Geoff alluded to earlier, new form factors or existing form factors that are easier to install or lower cost would be really helpful for those hard to reach installations. Installers, to the extent that they don't do electrical assessments, will need to become comfortable doing them with circuit finders and power meters for those gas conversions. Those unconditioned water heater locations, we would not recommend 120 volts without the backup ER. We're still trying to determine whether or not even the ones that do have backup electric resistance, whether they are sufficient. And we'll find out this winter. We'll have a pretty large cohort going through this winter to determine that. There are those additional retrofit materials that it's really nice to have those in stock. You don't want to wait on custom orders and deliveries. And then just the larger homes and gas tankless retrofits, they just have a higher risk of running out of hot water with a 120 volt product. The good news is, at least for larger homes, they generally have 200 amp panels or larger panels, so usually they can handle 240 volt. Next steps, we are going to prepare a video. I'm working on that now for 120 volt installation guidance. We are expanding the study to the Northeast. We are going to be meeting with the installer and the manufacturer soon to go through those sites and conduct that initial round of installations. And that's about it for now. I'll just go right to questions.
That's great. Thank you, Josh. We've got does anybody have a burning question? I have one or two I want to ask, but anybody want to step in?
Sure, I can jump in for one. Thanks for this great presentation, Josh. Did you look at COP? Just kind of how they performed, and other one was mixing valve set point or thermostat set point and mixing valve set points. Any information on that would be great.
Sure. So what we did is the default set point on the tanks is where we left them at, and I believe they're all around 140. And so that's where we've left them. It does reduce some of the COPs, and we do have some COP data. We haven't published that. I think there's a question as to how people would like to see it, whether we want to do it in certain temperature bands or certain seasonal bands. So we've kind of thought about, okay, how do we want to break this out that's most useful to programs? So if people want to see COP data, happy to share it. Just let us know what you think is the right way to cut the data, so that way you get the most information out of it, most helpful information. Owen, I know you have a question, so please feel free.
Yeah, I just wanted to ask one thing about so you said some of the heaters were not able to keep up in the cold, and some of them had resistance backup. I know that obviously because they're 120 volt, they have small resistance backup elements. Was it only the water heaters without the resistance backup that failed in the cold and caused complaints? Were the ones that did have resistance backup like conspicuously better, or was it a mix?
Well, the ones that did not have electric resistance backup were pretty obviously the biggest issue. We, to be honest, we did some installations for the one with backup. A lot of those happened in late January and February. We have not, with that other manufacturer's product, we have yet to go through an entire winter. So we want to see it go through an entire winter first to be able to make more definitive evaluation of that. But I mean, yeah, that's the best way for me to put it. There was an attic that got above 120, 120 degrees, and the 900 watts worked out pretty well for them, but we need to see it throughout an entire winter with the entire group.
Great, thank you. Okay, handing back to Joe.
Thanks, Owen. Yeah, I think we are at time. Josh, if you see the chat should be still live. Jackson had a question in the chat, but
sure.
Thanks, Owen and Josh, for that fantastic presentation. Really, really appreciate it. Excited for this cold climate, this next northeastern study that y'all will be doing. So look forward to having you on in the future. But yeah, thanks, Owen, for moderating that. Thanks everybody for being on. We'll send the recording and the slides afterwards. Enjoy the rest of your day and happy holidays, and we'll talk to you next month.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.